Inside Fighting here, and I'm joined today by Dan 50K Ige, who returns to action UFC 308, facing Lerone Murphy. Dan, always a pleasure, my man. How are things with you today?
Pretty good, man. Just another day, another blessing. Just training, living my dream, getting ready for this fight. Um, but I'm just stoked to be here. Good to talk to you and good to catch up.
It's always a pleasure. The last time was better because we were sat in person in Las Vegas, but it's always good catching up with you nonetheless. Speaking of
Yeah.
Las Vegas, I know you wanted to get on the Sphere card. Obviously, that didn't work out, but are you planning to attend Notch UFC on Saturday?
To be honest, I didn't even ask for tickets. Just I figured kind of be a long shot, and I got this fight coming up in October in Abu Dhabi, so I've let go. I can't hold on to it too. And you never know though. They might call me on Saturday. Some crazy shit might happen, and maybe we can make it happen again at 165. But as far as attending, I'll probably just watch it from home, watch it on TV, and then just getting ready for my fight. When I get fights, I just kind of get into my routine and get in my zone. I don't really like to go out anywhere or do anything outside of my normal routine. So yeah, here we are, just a little 6.5 weeks away. We'll have some good fights to watch on Saturday. But aside from that, I'm just getting ready for my own fight.
How do you see the fight in your division between Brian Ortega and Diego Lopes playing out?
Honestly, I mean, it's a pretty good fight. Diego's got like a real, he has a real big spirit in there, and so does Ortega. I mean, I haven't faced Ortega obviously, but when I fought Diego, he just in a way felt different than a lot of people that I fought. It was just he brought a bigger spirit, a bigger like force with him in the octagon, and um, he's young, he's coming up, and I think he can capitalize on the moment. Um, I don't know how, his jiu-jitsu is really good, so is Ortega's, and it's hard to see. It's hard to tell. Diego's a fast starter. Ortega's a little bit of a slow starter, but can weather the storm and always find a way to win. Being a 3-round fight, I think I just kind of favor Diego a little bit. And I think it'll shake up the division a little bit. Being Ortega's ranked number 3. If he runs through Ortega, what does that put me? Number 5? Like,
That's right.
I don't know. It's a good fight.
I know that you've talked a lot about the last fight, so I've only got 2 questions for you on UFC 303. But the consensus coming out of it was Diego started quick, as he often does, but you rallied the storm and you came on strong and won the third round. And there was a question in the aftermath of that fight saying, is there something about Dan's lack of preparation, lack of having to go through a weight cut and all of that hard, intense training? Was there maybe a benefit there towards the end of the fight? So my question to you is, did your experience at UFC 303 change any of your mindset or focus going forward in terms of how you train and how you prepare?
It's so hard to say because there's so many more variables than just cutting weight. Like, if you take into consideration my whole week leading up to that Saturday, I had a crazy hard week of training because I'm 3 weeks out. Like, I'm training hard. I trained that morning. I sparred that the day before. I did a hard morning session that Saturday. I sat in the sauna. I did everything you're not supposed to do before a fight, and I did it and was still able to perform. Was that due to not cutting weight? Maybe. But I think another thing people argue is they say Diego cut weight 3 times. And the truth of the fact is he cut weight 1 time to 145 and then got the call that he wasn't going to be fighting at 145. So he was able to hydrate early, got up to 55 by the morning because that was the weigh-in, right? 155 versus Ortega. And then they say he changed weight classes again. Realistically, he just continued to hydrate from the night before of cutting weight to 45 and then stepped in the cage. I think he weighed in at like 162. You take me, if I'm getting ready for a fight, I'll cut down to 146, 145, 146. By the time I'm fighting, I'm typically around 162, 63, 64, 65. Anything a little heavier than 65, I feel a little sluggish. Anything below 61, I feel too light. So it's just finding that sweet spot. So I think a big part of it is, like people say, he cut weight 3 times. He didn't cut weight 3 times. He cut weight 1 time. And I had my own challenges that I had to overcome of not actually mentally preparing for a fight. So a fight's a fight, you know. We get in there, we fight. Cutting weight's obviously something we prepare for. You know, it's never fun. I'm not saying it's gonna make our performance great. Like it's not the best thing to do right before a fight. I 100% agree with that, and I do have the advantage of not having to cut weight the night before. But fight week, this is what you do. You go into fight week, you're not training hard. You're training just enough to just like hit whatever thing whatever you're trying, whatever your goal is. Right, you're just hitting certain intensities, but it's not hard. It's not long, and everything's kind of leading up to the weight cut. Then your weight cut's probably the hardest thing of fight week. And then you recover, rehydrate properly, and then you fight. If you know how to recover and rehydrate, you're typically feel pretty good by the time by the time you're actually fighting. So people say whatever they want, but at the end of the day, I've even when I cut weight, I don't typically go in there and gas out in round three. I mean, it's just sometimes you gas out by overexerting sometimes, but I've never really gotten tired, I'd say, because of a weight cut. It's more so in the sense of overtraining, or I've been tired in fights. I've been tired warming up, in the back in the locker room, because it was a hard training camp. Weight cuts part of it, but it's like I had a hard, long 10 weeks of training, and then I just don't happen to feel good on fight night. How did Diego feel? I don't know, but he felt pretty strong in there, and he did his best, and he tried to finish me, and I just, I was able to endure the storm and come out on top in the later round. But I don't know if it's a street fight and there's no time, I'm walking out of the alley.
100%.
UFC 306 is this weekend. Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili for the bantamweight title. And we have an incredible new offer from our partners over at DraftKings. New DraftKings customers who bet $5 receive $250 in bonus bets instantly just by signing up using our promo code INSIDEFIGHTING.
Alley.
100%. And my only other question about the last fight, I remember when Jorge Masvidal knocked out Ben Askren, and the sentiment was nobody will ever get a faster knockout than 5 seconds. That it can be broken, but it never will be. My question to you is the shortest fight in UFC history, 4 hours, I think it was, or 3.5 hours notice. Do you think that record will stand the test of time, or do you think maybe one day we see an even crazier scenario?
I think it's hard to beat, just because like it literally the stars had to align perfectly, just being in town. It's a high profile fight. My medicals were done. It literally got through, I had to go through it had to get approval from the governor of Nevada. He had to sign off from the athletic commission. There was just a lot of little moving pieces. That's why I didn't even want to, when the fight came upon, I just said yes. I didn't sit there and be like, well, how much money are you offering? Like, they offered me good money, I just took it. I didn't even try to negotiate better money. It was just, I was more so thinking of the opportunity and what it can do for me later on in my career. And doing something like this is not something that comes across your plate every single day. And it hasn't actually happened. Maybe back in the days and Pride, yeah, you're fighting the day of. I talked to Ray Suffo, he finds out he's fighting that day. It was just a little more normal. But at this caliber, a UFC co-main event on International Fight Week is huge. So they're not just going to do that for anyone, any random card at the Apex. They're not going to just call up anyone random. But the fact that it was such a high profile, so many fallouts happened that, with the main event and the co-main event, and losing the co-main event, they had to put something together, and it all worked out for the fans. And it worked out greatly in my favor, besides not getting the decision. I just felt like it helped my career a lot, and fan base, and just respect from fighters, from the UFC, from people. But it's in the past now, and here we are.
100%. Here we are, Dan. And now you draw Lerone Murphy. What's so interesting about this fight is when you guys were initially booked, you were the guy in the rankings, and Lerone was the guy trying to break into the top 15 and kind of take what you had. And one of the questions I lined up for you was, did you expect a higher ranked fighter off after UFC 303? But when I checked the top 15 rankings, he's actually ranked 3 spots ahead of you. So it's a bit of a strange turn of events how it's gone from he's the guy coming to take what you have back in February, whereas now rankings wise, you have something to gain from him. So who has more to gain going into this matchup?
I I get, like he has this like I don't really know him that well, but you see certain tweets or posts like he's like one of those guys that gets up in the rankings and then only want to fight the guys above him, right? You only want to fight the top 10, the top 5. Whereas someone like myself has given every guy, every contender, every up and comer, every unranked guy a chance. And I've always, fought and delivered. And usually if it was the unranked guy, I'd walk away the winner, right? And then I fought whatever we're supposed to fight. I ended up fighting Feely. Then then I was getting ready for another unranked guy, right?
Brito, Joe Anderson Brito.
Brito, and then Brito pulled out of the fight. And then they gave me they offered me Sean Woodson, and that fight was supposed to, it never got announced. And then they offered me Chepe because something happened with Woodson within a week, or I don't even know if the fight was ever actually agreed upon, but I agreed. And then they gave me Chepe, so that was just a weird random fight. I've trained with Chepe in the past, and I know he just probably wants to fight, and it's a good opportunity for him, and I just want to fight. And then so I took that fight. I'm getting ready for that fight, and then the whole day of thing happened with Diego. Then I fight Diego and I lose. Diego's, I think, was one rank below me. Your boy Murphy goes on and fights Barboza, and then now is number 11, so now he's ranked above me. I mean, for me, it doesn't really matter, but I do see the pro in it as far as now I get to climb the ladder, and I believe I deserve the right to climb the ladder because I've given a lot of people that opportunity to climb the ladder. And for him, at least he gets like, I'm just coming off that fight with Diego, so there's a lot of, buzz around it. So there's still good in it for him. I'm flying to Abu Dhabi. He fights there a lot. I'm flying all the way to Abu Dhabi for that opportunity. So I don't know. I'm just looking at, as for me, this is another opportunity to climb the ladder and break into the top 10 and get back to a place where I want to be. So
you have so much experience now, Dan. So the names that you've fought, the people that you've beat, the people that you've been in there with. When you and the rest of the team, Eric and the guys, look at Lerone's tape, is there anything that you see in his game that's different that you maybe haven't faced before?
I wouldn't say it's necessarily different. He's very skilled, technical. Obviously the experience I have probably more fights in the UFC than he has total in fights. And I fought the best of the best. When I watch his tape, I mean, he's just very well rounded. He could fight out of both stances very equally. It's hard to tell, is he actually a southpaw or a right-hander? Just how fluid he is from both stances. So that's just something that, to look out for. But at the end of the day, we just go in there and we focus on what we do best, pay attention to about 80% of what we do, maybe 20% what he does, because you never know. Does this, I could end up fighting someone else by the time I get to Abu Dhabi. So
let's hope not.
The more I sure I hope not, but it's just the more I focus on everything that he does good, and I'm building up this picture in my head of, you almost overhype a guy in your own head. You put him on a pedestal. So I just try to just focus a little bit more on me and just getting better every single day. And then when I go into the fight, you usually see the improvement. So that's all it's all about, man. Just trying to get better and climb the ladder.
How does it feel to be on the undercard of the featherweight title fight between Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway? And do you think that's maybe a strategic move from the UFC to say, if, let's hope, touch wood, Ilia or something happens to Ilia or Max, we've got 50k Ige who we know will step up on 4 minutes, 4 hours, 4 seconds if need be?
I don't think it's any like strategy there from their end, but it's just cool. It's cool to share a card with Max. I was just out in Hawaii. I got some training with him. I got some sparring, and he's really good, man. I think it's personal for him. I think he wants his belt back. And if anyone can do it, he could do it. And just to, again, yeah, share a card with someone from, from where I'm from, and just it's going to be a big night for Hawaii, and they got some crazy Hawaiians on the power slap the night before, so it'll be fun, man. I've never fought on the card with Max, so yeah, I don't really think anything much of it. It's just other than it's just another night in the office, and we're gonna go in there and throw some leather.
How obviously Max has been very vocal about wanting UFC Hawaii one day. From your perspective, because I've never had the good fortune to ever go to Hawaii, how realistic is that in terms of infrastructure or a stadium where that event could be held?
I feel like they could do a fight night there.
Hmm.
I wouldn't. I don't know if they could necessarily do a big pay-per-view there. It's just I mean, I know I don't know if it's the UFC wanting a lot of money or Hawaii. I don't really know like the politics behind it. That I think the Hawaii tourism they want some weird thing, and
Oh.
I just I don't know. I'm not really banking on it ever happening. If it does, cool, great. I would love to fight there, but I've been in Vegas now for 9 years, and we're coming up on 9 years in January, and you know, yeah, I'll go fucking fight on the moon. I don't really care. Just tell me when and where.
Did you learn anything new about yourself throughout the last fight and throughout the experience of fighting on such short notice? Did that teach you anything internally that you feel like you can use in the rest of your career?
I definitely say it from like the mental side. Like
Mm.
there's so much, we put so much into fighting and just preparing and training camps and structure and preparing for one specific day. But at the end of the day, we train every single day. We're martial artists. Most fighters are always in the gym in and out of camp. The only thing, it's like we start tweaking different intensities and dialing in a little bit specifically for a fight when we get a date, and then focus on cutting weight and whatnot. But I definitely say like I gained a lot of confidence, and just think like what you can get away with a lot, with a lot. Like I didn't have the time to think like fuck, I didn't have a full camp, I didn't
Mm.
do this. Like I just went in there and didn't think, and I just fought,
Mm.
and considering what I did that the week leading up, training hard, sparring hard, training that morning in the sauna that morning, not knowing I'm gonna fight, and then all of a sudden getting a massage and then just going and fighting. It's like you prove a lot to yourself of what the body and the mind is actually capable of when you just tell your brain to shut the fuck up and just go in there and fight. Um, obvious. I mean, not obvious. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but sometimes when you have more time, like I've had 17 weeks one time to prepare for a fight when I fought Evloev, and you're thinking about fighting one guy for 17 weeks and you're training hard because you have a date on the table. And just by the time I got to the fight, I was just so mentally exhausted and just burnt out and just training. It's like I just kind of was going, it's like my body was on autopilot. I just went through the motions, but I had no like fire, and my timing and everything was just off because I've, I don't know. I think you just train too hard and you burn out. So there's a lot to take away, and it's hard to process, but now I wouldn't say my approach has changed so much, but it's just more of like, I'm just going in the gym every day with a goal to get better. And I have specific things that I want to work on. I write down goals that I want to get better at and improve at, and then I do it.
Mm.
And then when I fight, I go out and fight, and I apply what the things I learned. And obviously, you have game plans. I have great coaches. We have general game plans, but you have a game plan until you get punched square in the nose, and then now you're in a fight. So yeah, there's a lot to take away, but if anything, I just proved to I gained a lot of confidence. Even though I lost, I gained a lot of confidence.
100%. Well, last question from me, Dan, because I do know you have a session to get to in just a minute. So thank you for your time as always. I think I've asked you this question before, but give me a walkthrough of your perfect fight day on the 28th of October. I want to know a walkthrough of how you envisage the perfect fight day from when you wake up in the morning to when you go to sleep at night in Abu Dhabi.
Perfect fight day. I don't even really know the logistics because I don't know what time I fight. I've heard different things, but because last time I fought in Abu Dhabi, I fought at like 6 a.m. That is not the perfect fight day. That's the worst. That was the weirdest thing ever. Just waking up and getting woken up by USADA at 3 a.m., taking a piss, and then going to the arena. And it's like you're still wiping your eyes, and then you fight, and it's more like sparring. And now we're eating breakfast. It's very strange. Now I believe we're fighting at prime time, so I'm going a little early to Dubai and then Abu Dhabi. I'm gonna go like 11 days or so, a little early, get out there, acclimate a little bit, and then we cut weight Friday, and just Saturday I just wake up and do what I do jump in a cold plunge and have a nice breakfast with the team and maybe a little shakeout. My shakeouts, I kind of just I'll make that call like the day of if I'm feeling it or if I feel I don't need it. I don't make it like a superstition. Some people like, oh, I have to do this. I don't have to do anything. It's just whatever I feel in the moment. So have a nice breakfast, get some fuel in. I feel like that's the most important thing for me, is just getting the right fuel, because a lot of times, especially fight days, like I'll get a good breakfast in, but when nerves and everything are settling, like I'm not hungry. I'm just like, I'm more anxious. So, just hanging out with the family over there. I have my brother-in-law, I have Eric, my coach, my good friend Ian. So we'll just be hanging out, killing time, maybe put on some old boxing fights and watch some fights. And then when it's time, I'll just kind of shut off, put on my headphones and relax and stay calm until it's time to go. And then when we're in the back, we just start ramping it up. My coach and we always talk about cranking up the dials. So I never get too intense till it's time, because again, we don't want to burn out. So just slowly turn up the dial until it's go time, and then give it my best for 15 minutes and then shut off and go home.
I love it. I love it. Well, Dan, it is always good catching up, my man. It really, really is. I'm so excited to watch you fight. I'm hoping to get there in Abu Dhabi. So if I do, it'll be a pleasure to watch you in person. Hopefully see you again. But thank you as always for the time, and have a great and safe rest of camp.
Yeah, let me know if you come out there, and hit me up for sure.
100%.